Balls Deep.
Welcome to Balls Deep, a humorous yet informative medical show with a mission of optimizing your performance in the bedroom, the bathroom, and the boardroom. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Pazona, a board-certified urologist and CEO of Pazona MD. We hope you enjoy. Now, let's jump right in. Hello again, Stream Team. Dr. Joe Pazona, your host of Balls Deep. And as always, I'm joined by Miss Kat Williams.
Still here.
Absolutely. Again,
Still doing my vocal warm-ups.
we can't afford anyone else.
Well, I'm just glad I haven't been fired. But
Well,
yes,
you're
proud to be here. Proud to be here.
You're
Privileged.
lovely.
Honored.
Well, Kat, I think we decided we're going to change gears a little bit with this episode. You know, we want this show to not just be everything, you know, urology and balls, right? You know,
Right. Health related.
Absolutely. And not only do we want to give you an opportunity to speak more, because let's be honest, you're the real star of this show.
This is true.
But, you know, I think as specialists, we've got to understand that without wellness and without talking some of these things, you know, what I call the 4 pillars of wellness: nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction, that a lot of the other things we do doesn't matter. So with that, I think today we're going to be talking about booze.
Yeah, so this is a topic I chose. We were wondering what else we might talk about, and I really wanted to talk more and more in depth about alcohol consumption, and some things I've been noticing and kind of taking note of in friend groups and just kind of in our population, in the U.S. population in general. I think we're not headed in a good direction. And not only are we not headed in a good direction, I think we're already not in a good place with alcohol in this country.
Well, in that case, I think we should probably just dive right into the meat of the show that we like to call
Balls Deep.
All right. Well, a lot of different ways we can go with this, Kat.
So I'm going to ask you, I want to share, I purport to be a person who has been a teetotaler my whole life, who has never had alcohol. That's absolutely not true. I didn't grow up in a household that had alcohol in it, and my mom was the proverbial teetotaler. I think she never had an alcoholic beverage. That's not true of my dad. He is sort of a wine connoisseur and has enjoyed that in his life. I did not grow up in a family of heavy drinkers. I did not grow up in a family where alcohol was a large presence. But that doesn't mean that in my college years, and certainly in my 20s, 30s, beginning of my 40s, I didn't drink a good bit of alcohol, go out with friends. Certainly there were some evenings I am a bit ashamed of my behavior and too much alcohol. But on the whole, I probably have not been the largest consumer of alcohol. So maybe I notice it more in other people, but your journey has been a little different. And I wanted to ask you to share with us kind of your history. You know, everybody's consumed alcohol differently. So Joe, you tell us about your history of alcohol consumption.
Yeah, you know, I think it's important to cover this, not only to provide context for what we're about to talk about, because let's just get to the punchline for those people. Alcohol is a toxin.
It's not good.
And this idea that it's, quote, healthy just doesn't hold water.
Or that there is a safe amount of alcohol to be consuming.
Correct. So we're going to get to that,
We'll
and
get there.
We'll go over some numbers and some various things. So, but our alcohol habits tend to start in our childhood. So I grew up in a house where there was 0 alcohol. And the reason was that my father is a recovering alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'll give him credit. He never once drank from the moment I was born and has never had a sip since. And so, thank you, Dad, for, having that strength to do that, because I imagine I would not have wanted to see that. But therefore, alcohol was very taboo. So I didn't drink in high school. I think there was one time I was offered a beer and I was so thrown off. I was like, no, why would anyone ever want to do that? And then I was in college, went to Northwestern, and we actually had a good football team that year. And I distinctly remember I was at a bar watching a game with a buddy, and I said, if we beat Michigan, I'm gonna drink tonight. And I don't know why that thought came in my head, but we beat them. In fact, we were undefeated in the Big Ten that year, and I drank, and that started a long period of what can only be described as binge drinking. I mean, it was very, quote, normal for me to drink on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, off day on Sunday. Monday was Long Island iced tea night, so I had to enjoy that.
Grief.
But in all seriousness, and yeah, there were certainly some things that I did that I was not proud of in retrospect. Thank God there wasn't social media.
Oh, wow. Thank God.
I can only imagine the pictures. I mean, luckily it's just stories from my fraternity brothers. So, fast forward, I would say that throughout adulthood, general consumption has slowed down. And at this point, listen, I love a great glass of wine. I love going out and having a Manhattan or a whiskey cocktail, and a cold beer with a burger and fries cannot be beaten. So again, I'm not a teetotaler by any means. I really enjoy alcohol. I just don't feel good drinking anymore, though. And it's lost its allure. And I think part of it is, as I'm now in my later 40s. I won't age you, don't worry.
Oh, 29. 29.
I'm really taking my mortality and seriously, and I'm really looking at what levers I can pull on to maximize my longevity and my wellness. It's not just about living a long time. I want to live a good life. And if you look at what people who are very smarter, who are a lot smarter than I am, based on my grammar, are saying about alcohol, it is a toxin. In fact, for those of you who are maybe listening to this, you're fans of other medical podcasts. So one of my man crushes is Dr. Peter Attia. Hey, Peter, nice to see you if you're out there.
He loves you. He's obsessed.
We have some mutual friends that you're not aware of, but keep up the great work. He's brilliant. I mean, if I had to say who's the one doctor in this country who's deserving of celebrity status and walks the walk, it's Dr. Peter Attia. And he understands research, and he and his team break it down better than anybody. And he basically runs a very high-end, for lack of a better term, longevity medicine clinic. And this is what he said about alcohol. You have to have an insane reason to consume more than 2 drinks in a day.
An insane
reason. He didn't use any other word but insane. And that you should not be drinking more than 3 days a week. And that at this point in his life, if he's doing this calculation, and he's like, I'm under 7 drinks a week. And he even admits there's times he shared a story online where he had some good friends over and they stayed up a little bit too late and they ate late and drank a bit too much and he went to bed. And he's like, I'd do it again 50 times, but it's not every day. Mm-hmm. And it was something that you've got to be very thoughtful of. And so when people smarter than me say something that I trust, I try to listen.
Pay attention to it.
And so we've got to change this narrative around alcohol, that there's this safe amount. And I think one thing that you've noticed, I'd love for you to share a little bit, is this, there's a normalization of what amounts to heavy alcohol consumption. And if you are having more than 2 drinks in a day as a man, and frankly, more than 1 drink a day as a woman, especially a petite woman like yourself, that is too much. And that should be a rare occasion, not Wednesday night at the ball fields or Thursday night book club every single week. So, we talk about this frequently, this we're at this point we're noticing amongst, we're not talking about the college years. We're talking about adults who have jobs and careers and families.
Children, responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Life is much more complicated than it was in the college years. But to me, there is a very specific normalization that it's not that I'm noticing it now. I've been noticing a long time, but as with you, I'm becoming more focused on trying to create a path to wellness and longevity in my life and your life, our family life. I'm more aware of the normalization of a lot of alcohol consumption. And I mean well beyond 1-2 drinks a day. And not to throw anybody under the bus, but I've been shocked having stepchildren in my life and having shown up at sporting events for kids on afternoons and weeknights that parents are drinking alcohol at the sporting events, in the parking lots, on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday. And it's wine that's concealed in Starbucks cups. And I thought everybody was just drinking a lot of caffeine really late at night. And I did ask someone at some point, just kind of as a joke, I said, oh my God, how can you drink coffee this late? I would be awake for 2 days. And she said, oh girl, this is not coffee. This is wine. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, drinks wine through a lot of or all of the sporting events. And listen, it's not a criticism, it's a concern. It's a concern.
It's a concern.
Also, who's driving your kid home from the sporting events, which I think is a different topic, but it's a concern. Do you have to drink the wine? It feels like we are walking away from the enjoyment of the beverage as opposed to using the beverage for another purpose.
Well, I think that's where it crosses the line, and I want to make sure that this isn't just the Joe and Kat show railing on booze and tie it back to medical. But if we look at it in that way, I think the situation you just described and what we see is, there's an emotional, I don't know if it's hole or damage that you're trying to fill up and treat with the alcohol. If you can't listen, I've been to my fair share of kids' baseball games and softball games.
They're not fun.
And they can, let's be honest, parents, like I love my kids.
Long.
Dear Lord, they can be painful.
Wow.
But, I go and more often than not, jokingly, it's an enjoyable time. It's funny. But if you can't get through the event without booze, if you can't go hang out with your girlfriends or go with the guys without having 3, 4, 5, 6 drinks, I mean, we're not talking about having a beer every now and then or a glass of wine. I mean, we're talking about middle of the week people we have witnessed pouring back 3, 4, 5 drinks like it's nothing. Mm-hmm. I think that speaks to an emotional lack of health and a spiritual lack of health that people are having. And that, to me, as a physician, is a warning sign, because it's not just about physical health. There are plenty of very fit people who are emotionally, mentally, and spiritually broken.
And unwell.
And unwell, exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's their disease. And I'm looking for wellness in those areas as well. And I want to promote wellness to our listeners here and viewers on those avenues. And you could argue they're more important than the physical side. But I think it's important to kind of dive into, from the medical perspective,
health concerns.
The physical health. Mm-hmm. So, alcohol is often, I call it that hidden cause of disease or lack of wellness that nobody talks about. So,
right.
So with, with our practice, Pazona MD here in Nashville, we offer a weight loss plan. We felt it was very important to offer an actual solution that's safe and effective, because obesity is the root cause of almost every disease that I treat. And I felt like a hypocrite if I'm just slinging Viagra at guys and telling women to, just go lose weight and then I'll fix your bladder leakage, without giving them a real world solution. Mm-hmm. And so it's been curious to see, we have people on these weight loss plans and some are like, I can't get this weight off. This medicine's not working. And I'd say 99 times out of 100, I do a little bit of a deep dive and I find out how much alcohol they're drinking.
And it's the alcohol,
and
you
it's,
think?
it's the booze that is the hidden. Because, I mean, you look at their dietary history, and if you just talk about food and other beverages, yeah, they should be losing weight. I mean, if they are truly doing that and exercising as much as they are on this medicine.
Good.
But it's the 3 glasses of wine that they're having a night, that's 500 calories of sugar, that they, quote, don't count. Or are they really being accurate with what they're eating? You know, alcohol is a very social thing. And so the fact that they are, it's related, that's a problem with the alcohol discussion. It's so intertwined. I think we'll get to here shortly after we cover this side of things, because people are going to ask, well, what about the French and the Europeans, and they drink wine?
Right.
And remind me, we'll get to that. But it's a social thing. And so I'm drinking, but I'm also eating all this fried food. Mm-hmm. And then just look at alcohol consumption by itself. So other diseases, it leads to high blood pressure. It's associated with things like atrial fibrillation, which is a heart arrhythmia. We look at how it disturbs sleep. And we all know that lack of sleep leads to hormone imbalances. And we don't have that restorative nature of sleep. We're passed out, but we ain't sleeping after we've had a couple drinks.
For me, the sleep disruption is a huge, it's almost the singular reason that I have stopped drinking as much alcohol as I used to. Now, again, that's certainly not to say I never have a glass of wine. I never have a cocktail. My cocktail is the Aviation.
It's a good one.
Love it. It's a good one. But I can't sleep. I can sort of pass out, fall asleep, but I can't stay asleep. And it's a fitful sleep. I wake up constantly. And the next morning, and this is even after one alcoholic beverage, I'm not rested. I feel markedly different than on a night when I've had no alcohol whatsoever. And I began noticing how different those sleep nights are, and how bad I felt. And it wasn't bad in the same way you feel awful after like a terrible hangover. It isn't that. No. I felt bad because I had not slept.
I mean, I'll second that. I have one of those Aura rings, the little sleep rings.
These fancy things.
It's great, but I gave up on it because it was driving me crazy because I kept wanting to beat my sleep score as an achiever, right? But interestingly, I'd wear it on nights I had just even a single glass of wine, and my sleep was terrible. And then on the nights that I didn't, I slept great. Mm-hmm. So,
and your score on that was completely different.
Yeah, and I can't handle bad scores. I was a straight A student. Like, no, I mean, a B is an F. So I'm working out with a new trainer as well on this sort of journey towards wellness. And I apologize, I don't have the article quoted per se or for to refer to, but he commented that there was a study done in elite athletes, and they gave them one alcoholic beverage. And they then studied them on these sort of high-end physical tasks. I mean, these people are best of the best.
And these were elite athletes.
Elite athletes.
Okay.
Do you know how long it took for them to get back to their baseline level after one single drink?
12 hours, one day.
10 days.
Stop.
10 days.
Really? Okay, now that seems completely, I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have said maybe two days.
Crazy, right? And again,
10 days?
Don't hold me to that, but if anything, hey, it's a great story. Let's not let the truth get away with a great story, right? We're a medical show, but we're not like that deep dive into science, people. But point being, it really affected the performance longer than you would think.
Much longer.
And so, I think it's something that we've just got to be mindful of. And, I talked about earlier, maybe now would be a good time before we kind of reach the end here of, what about the Mediterraneans? Like, what about we go to Italy.
We do. We go to Italy. We
Yeah.
go to France, and these people, they drink wine with lunch. My Lord, if I had wine with lunch, I'd be down for a day.
Yeah.
But they do this as part of their lifestyle. They even eat heavier foods than we do. I know they eat them in much smaller portions, but how do you account for that?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of that awesome Nick Kroll video where he pretends he's
Oh,
French
stop. That's
and
my
he's
favorite
like,
thing.
I smoke a cigarette, I eat a pound of meat, I drink a bottle of wine.
The bottle of heavy cream is for lunch. Is very healthy.
You guys got to look that up after watching this episode.
It's funny.
Nick Kroll, hilarious. And this is where it comes down to the confounding issues, right? So first and foremost, it doesn't change what we've said. Alcohol is a toxin. So how do the French and the Italians do it? Well, there's a lot of potential factors. So first and foremost, we know that as cultures, they're very active. They walk everywhere. And that's
very true.
A lot of activity, especially consistent activity through the day. You can be like, well, I go to Orange Theory and kill myself for 45 minutes. Yeah, but then you sit on the couch all day and drink after that.
Or you sit at your desk
Correct.
at your job and you are still working and your brain is functioning, but you're still sedentary.
Absolutely. So, with the European lifestyle, they're walking the entire day. Number two, their caloric intake is much lower overall. They tend to have very light breakfast. Their biggest meal is lunch. They're then walking and working the rest of the day and have a very light dinner. And what we do when we're in France or Italy is not what the French and the Italians do on a daily basis. You also throw in the fact that they're very social and that there's some evidence that community and family and friends keep you living longer. And we also just look at the food they put in their body. Probably 80% of our health is our food. And so if you're putting in all these antioxidants and fish and omega-3s and all of these things on a regular basis, instead of down in 6 beers with Chick-fil-A, the booze becomes less of an issue. And if we also look at it, I've never once seen a family out in Italy getting drunk. I've never seen them like screaming and pouring the wine and downing it and the obnoxious American sort of persona that we have. They have a few bottles of wine out for many people. They have their little glasses. They enjoy it. It's probably also there's no such thing as better alcohol, but
it's a great deal of moderation.
Absolutely. And there's all these confounding factors. So when we go, well, what about that French study? Well, when you look at big observational studies, it's really hard to make conclusions about that. And there's so many different factors playing a role. And what we're talking about is our view of just out and about, but also I can speak as a physician. There are a lot of people, we asked them on intake forms who drink a lot of booze, and I see the deleterious effects. One of the, I think, privileges of what I get to do is I get to see people at multiple stages of life, and I get to see their intimate details. And so I see the people in later stages in life who did that binge drinking through the years and are still doing it. And newsflash, people, they ain't doing well. They're having signs of dementia. They've got many diseases. They are on multiple medications. This is something we've got to talk about more. And hopefully this week's episode at least gives you some pause to say, I know the friend group you're a part of thinks this is normal and everybody does it, but it doesn't mean it's healthy or that it's the right thing to do. And so, I'm sure we've pissed off some people as well. And again, we're not coming from a perspective of not enjoying this. I love alcohol.
Enjoy a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Enjoy great wine. I love my aviation cocktail.
Or enjoy that crappy ice cold beer at the ball game. Like it's not about even the quality of it. It's about the experience and the enjoyment. So we're not saying everyone's got to go out and be a teetotaler.
No.
But we have to change this narrative around what is normal behavior and what's frankly safe. And honestly, what is the message we want to give our kids? Talk about the health of our children. I think I can get alignment from everyone watching this video. If you're a parent and I might have said something that upsets you, you want your kids to be healthy and happy.
And safe.
You don't want your kids to be numbing bad feelings with alcohol. You don't want them relying on alcohol to have a good time. And yes, do you as a parent want your kid in a car with someone who's had only 2 or 3 drinks? I don't. So, I think these are the things hopefully that we spark from this. And, I'd rather be controversial and help people. But I think this is something that we've got to talk about in healthcare and beyond.
I think so too. And I think we need to remember just to bring it back to the main point of this, which is alcohol really impacts your health. Mm-hmm. It's not just one thing or another. There's a lot of different health issues that are impacted by overconsumption and certainly a level of binge drinking, which I think is a bit more prevalent in our society than we want to talk about. And maybe we should. Yeah.
Well, why don't we wrap up the show on our humorous summary in a segment we like to call
Just the Tip. Okay, so just as a wrap up today, everybody, I think we need to remember that first and foremost, alcohol is a toxin, and we need to treat it as such. That doesn't mean you can't have a glass of wine, but we need to remember it is a toxin. Number 2, alcohol is often the hidden cause of health issues. Period. The end. And number 3, alcohol can easily impact your kidney, your bladder, and your prostate. And we can always talk about more of that with our resident urologist, but it's a health issue.
Yeah, we certainly, I think we got a little bit passionate about some of the other aspects of alcohol, but I think maybe a nice way to kind of close the show. Again, we're about wellness here at Balls Deep, along with humor. But I am a urologist. And so, alcohol leads to dehydration, kidney stones. It can impact your bladder by causing you to wake up at night to go to the bathroom. It irritates your bladder. You can have leakage. Alcohol is linked to prostate cancer. So there's all these things beyond, again, why should urologists be talking about alcohol? Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. It affects what I do on a daily basis. But again, more importantly, we're about wellness here, and we want to change this narrative about things in a loving way. And I think that's maybe the final thing I'd like to get across is, and I know you feel similarly, Kat, this is about love and care for people in our lives.
It's not criticism, it's concern.
Yeah, I mean, and again, as someone who has had their struggles earlier in life with behavior that I would not want my kids to have, kids don't watch this, actually do and learn from it. Our job is not to protect kids from all bad; it's to guide them through it. Sure. And so, for the sake of people we love about and the sake of all of our kids, we've got to start talking about the overconsumption of alcohol and really say, no, I'm not going to have that extra drink. And that's okay. So.
That's good.
Well, Kat, thank you for another wonderful conversation.
A spirited discussion.
And thank you, Stream Team, for listening. And we appreciate all the comments and all of the loyal subscribers and followers. And please remember that until next time, especially in this setting, please show yourself a little bit more love and grace. We're all works in progress, and these are opportunities to improve, including our overconsumption of alcohol. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Balls Deep. If you'd like to join our Stream team of listeners, please click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. For more information about our practice, Pazona MD, please visit pazonamd.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and the content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. The show does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed through this podcast or any of the social media channels related to this show. The use of this information is at the user's own risk. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.